Okay, so for some fun stuff today. Fun in that I love to see people who act like they're holier than thou, and because they don't want their child to read certain things, that means no child should read certain things, and they usually have a religious justification for it. So it's so fun to see that comes back to bite them in the butt. So this parent who was sick of seeing all these book bans decided to enact a challenge of their own against the Bible. Now, Utah has a law against vulgarity and violence, of which there's plenty of violence in the Bible. I mean, come on. Anybody who's ever read the thing knows that there's plenty of that in the Bible. From the very first book, there's plenty of violence. So, but that isn't the part that they went after. They went after the let me see, how did they phrase it? Let me bring that article up. Let's see. And the ban will be in immediate effect. So they claim that it contains pornographic or indecent material, which, yeah, probably. I mean, there's sex workers in there. Yeah, okay. And of course, there's actually there's quite a bit. I'm just gonna not list off all of them because I haven't read every book of the Bible, but I've read plenty. So the statement calls the Bible one of the most sex-ridden books around. Don't know if that, maybe. And includes an attachment of passages from the Bible they believe violate the law. Now, this is the same law that has banned The Bluest Eye by Toni Morrison and Genderqueer by Maya Kobabe. I think is how you say her name. My apologies if I butchered that. So, the committee assigned to review the book said it did not violate the state's law, but that it should still be limited, which I think is awesome. They're basically giving themselves an out. They're banning the book because they probably realize that, oh, yeah, under the law, it actually is pretty bad. But yet, at the same time, they're giving themselves an out by saying, yeah, it doesn't really violate the law, but we just think it's, more age appropriate for older kids. The decision's already being appealed by another parent, and that appeal will be decided at a public meeting in the future. And I will bet you anything that this parent, it would be the first one to ban whatever books they deem unchristian, or whatever the term du jour is right now. Because, people like that just can't seem to see the hypocrisy in what they're doing. Now, Ken Ivory, a Republican legislator in the state, released a statement on Thursday reversing his position on the ban after initially calling the complaint a mockery, which I'm pretty sure that was partially the reason. That it's not so much that this person was so adamant about removing the book because they found it offensive or something. I mean, it might be, but I think it's more like they were doing that to stick it to those people who are wanting to ban books left and right because it violates their precious religion. All the while reading a book that has everything they're complaining about and more in spades. Whereas the book that they're trying to ban probably doesn't even have what they're complaining about to begin with. So he wrote that the Bible is a challenging read for children and that the Bible is best taught and best understood in the home and around the hearth as a family. Which, fine. I'm not going to say, oh, no, you shouldn't do that. But at some point, kids should read the Bible because I'm pretty sure that there are people who will come to the defense of the Bible that say, oh, this didn't happen, or this isn't happening, or you're misconstruing what the Bible says, have never actually read the Bible. They've only heard their priest or pastor tell them what's in the Bible, but they've never read it themselves. So they just take their word for granted that they're telling them the truth, because why would they lie, right? But this is a book that has, I don't know how many thousands of denominations of Christianity exist. If there was only one interpretation of the Bible, there probably wouldn't be that many. So, yeah, it's definitely something you should read for yourself and make up your own mind about. So, now, in the day since this decision was announced, the Davis School District has also received a request for the Book of Mormon to be reviewed for inappropriate content. The Book of Mormon is a foundational text for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, a prominent religion in the state, aka Mormonism. For those who are familiar with the term Mormon, but not the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Those are the Mormons. So, a spokesperson for the district told the Salt Lake Tribune that they plan to form a similar committee to review this text as well. And I say great. Now, I'm not an advocate for book bans. I would never consider a book ban, but like I said, if you're going to ban something, and it's most likely being banned because of how you interpret your faith, then don't be surprised when the book that you claim your religious foundation on, the foundation of your faith, then don't be surprised when that book gets challenged. Because if for no other reason, you're being hypocritical, because the very thing that you're complaining about is in the Bible. So it's just, I just don't know what else to say about that. Do I agree with this ban? Only in the sense that it's basically biting the people who are for book bans in the butt, because they're the ones who are going to claim their religion and wants them to make sure that nobody can read such and such books because they've decided that there's something wrong with it for them personally or for their children, which that's fine. If you don't want to read a certain book, or you don't want your kids to read a certain book, that, for the most part, that's fine. But if you're going to tell other parents how to parent, and that no parent should be allowed to have access to such and such books because their children shouldn't be reading them, that's a problem. Because that isn't your business. You don't know what reading level these people are at. You don't know what their beliefs are. Even amongst Christians, there are thousands of denominations of Christianity. So just because one person believes a certain thing about their faith doesn't mean somebody else is going to believe the same thing. So it is not your place to tell them what they can and cannot read. And I've mentioned this about book bans before. I I advocate for Mein Kampf being 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 in libraries. Maybe not school libraries, but public libraries. Why? Because if people want to read it, fine. And they can make up their own minds as to whether this hatred is something you want to accept or take it for the hate that it is. But that is entirely up to you. Now, obviously, there would be consequences um, if you accepted Mein Kampf. There would be consequences to people who aren't Nazis, but that's again your choice. You get to make that choice, and you don't get to decide for other people what that choice is. Same thing with the Bible. I'm not going to tell people whether they can or cannot read the Bible, and I'm not going to say how you're going to explain the Bible to small children, because there are definitely certain stories that, unless you're a kind of person who doesn't see a problem with children reading the Brothers Grimm, I don't see why you would want some of your kids to read some of these Bible stories, but at the same time, that's not my judgment to make. If you think your kids are ready for that, then that's not. And since I was never a children's librarian, I never got into the age appropriateness, so I'm not even going to try. I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to say, yes, your children should be allowed to read this. No, they are not. Every child is different, every situation is different. That is a personal decision, not getting involved. And that's the way it should be. None of these books should be banned. None of them should be challenged, because you don't like a book, don't read the damn thing. Don't tell others what they can or cannot do, because that is really none of your business. Like I said, as long as they're not hurting anybody, as long as they are not abusing anybody else or threatening some type of harm to another person, if they want to read the book, fine. But this one Republican, if he wants a kids to be able to discuss certain books with their parents, yeah, that should be with all books, with many topics, that they should be able to discuss it with their parents or guardians. So that I find particularly fine, because even if the kids don't accept their parents' explanation, there's nothing wrong with that. Children should have a mind of their own and explore certain topics. They shouldn't just mimic what their parents tell them. They should look into, why are my parents telling me this? This is not what I am reading. This doesn't make sense to me. That is perfectly valid. So, yeah, discuss it with your parents. That should be with a lot of subjects that you should be able to discuss with either your parents or your peers, or when or if it comes to religious text, you know your pastor, your youth pastor, whomever else that you want to have this type of a discussion with. Absolutely. And find out as much as you can other people's opinions on an issue and decide on what makes sense. That is a perfectly valid thing to do. But, so yeah, stop banning books. Stop it. I mean, this is what you deserve if you're going to ban books. Actually, I saw that that the last challenge to the Bible was in Texas. I mean, the mind blows at this whole concept of Utah and Texas. that anyone in Texas, and I don't know where in Texas this was, because there are certain areas like, say, Austin, that aren't like Bible thumper central, where, it's not like they don't know their Bible. They're not Bible thumpers. They actually read the damn thing. They actually know what's in there. And they can make their decision based on that. So it just floors me that that's where Bible challenges came. But, hopefully we get to the point where people stop trying to ban damn books. I mean, it's just stupid. If an idea scares you that much, then maybe there's something to the idea. That you have to think about, why does an idea scare you so much? And then decide, is it because it's truthful? Is it because it just sounds good and you're afraid that many people will listen to that? And then you have to, instead of banning it, come up with a way to counteract that idea so people would be less likely to follow it. The concept is simple. Obviously, in practice, that is easier said than done, but it's not something, but that's still a better option than banning it, because it makes you uncomfortable. Because that doesn't help anybody. Because where does it stop then? Every person who's uncomfortable with the concept gets to ban something? What the hell do you think will be left? I mean, I'm pretty sure, because there were Puritans. During Puritan times, there were still people who were harder core than the Puritans, who had a problem with certain materials that the freaking Puritans accepted. So there's always going to be someone who's more extreme in their views. So instead of kowtowing to that, just let them not be exposed to that if they don't want to be. Well, depending on the topic, because sometimes just by breathing, you're going to be exposed to stuff. Like the parents who try to protect their kids from swearing. Well, that's only going to work so long, because they're going to hear it from their friends, they're going to hear it from the world around them, whether it be entertainment or just walking down the street, or, like I said, their classmates, their teachers. They're going to hear it eventually. So, yeah, you can protect them, but only to a certain extent. And so that's the same with these concepts. You can ban your kids from reading this, but they're eventually going to find out, or they're going to become hateful bigots like you, and they're going to not accept what the world is telling them because they were not allowed to learn it when they were younger, so they assume that it didn't exist until they just heard about it just now. So, yeah, like my sexuality, asexuality. People assume that it's a passing fad started by Tumblr or something. No, just because you only heard about it there doesn't mean it started there. So, same thing with any idea. People seem to think it started existing the moment they heard about it. And that's just wrong. And if they were exposed to it when they were younger, maybe they wouldn't be so freaked out about it when they do finally learn about it. Whether they agree with whatever topic you're discussing or not. At least they'll be exposed to it, they'll be able to have a conversation about it, instead of trying to ban it because it makes them uncomfortable, for whatever reason. Okay, I think I've gone around in circles on that one. So I will see you in the next video.